Well, in the last few moments, the President's also given his first public reaction to a letter from former President Thabo Mbeki addressed to the Deputy President Paul Mashatile in his position as Deputy Leader of the ANC. In the letter, as I understand it, Mbeki asks why the ANC used its parliamentary majority in Parliament to block the investigation into Phala Phala, the scandal which saw President Cyril Ramaphosa storing US currency in a sofa, from what we understand, against foreign currency regulations. One of the people who spoke to the President, our reporter, Athi Mtongana. Athi, good afternoon to you. What did President Ramaphosa say to Mbeki's letter?
As you can imagine, Stephen, the President wouldn't go into detail responding to that letter by former President Thabo Mbeki. However, he did manage to say that the Secretary General of the African National Congress is looking into the matter and it will be discussed. Once it has been discussed by the ruling party, he will then be able to make comments in relation to what the former president actually said. And what the former president actually said in that letter is something many opposition parties in Parliament have been saying, accusing the ANC of using its majority in the National Assembly to try and shield those who are accused of corruption. You would recall that it was not just the issue of Phala Phala that came up during that, or came up in that letter that was written by the former president. It's also the issue of setting up an ad hoc committee to look at corruption at Eskom. Through the majority vote of the African National Congress, that motion did not succeed. And so that issue of the ANC using its majority in the National Assembly to avoid accountability is an issue that has been raised not only by the former president Thabo Mbeki, but by the opposition sitting in the opposition benches. The president tight-lipped about his exact thoughts about that letter, but rather referring this matter to the ANC's Secretary General, saying that once they have discussed it as the ANC, he will then be able to speak in detail about it. But of course, he was here to respond to questions from members of the National Council of Provinces. Issues around Phala Phala, of course, came up once again when the DA asked him about the grey listing issue. They basically say that how will the government, or at least him as the first citizen, be able to deal with such issues given the fact that he is part of the problem. They're saying that if he is implicated in issues related to money laundering, allegedly, then he's part of the problem. The president says he maintains, quote, "there's no dirty dollars," close quote. That was his response to the DA. And of course, he continued to elaborate, saying that law enforcement agencies, including the Office of the Public Protector, are looking into this issue, and that throughout the process, he's been cooperating with the investigations. Another issue that came up is cadre deployment, insofar as the national framework in professionalizing the public services sector. The president again saying that the DA is coming out to accuse the ANC of cadre deployment when itself has its own policies in employing people at various municipalities that it governs. Let's listen to what President Ramaphosa had to say.
The case that you're talking about is a party political case. It's not a case against the state. So the DA has launched a case against the African National Congress, and those matters must be left between the court, the African National Congress, and the DA, and they should sort it out. As I have said before, and which I've repeated now, and by the way, I do want to remind you that, as I said at the Zondo Commission, I did outline what political parties do. And I also did outline what the DA also does. As I have said just a minute ago, that the DA in the places where they lead government, they go through their own appointment process. They do that, they vet candidates and so forth. Now, there is nothing wrong with a political party doing that, provided, as I have said, Appointments are based on merit.
President Cyril Ramaphosa ending that live report. Athi Mtongana, thank you very much indeed, our reporter in Parliament. Well, there, the President's first public response to what's happened around the former President Thabo Mbeki.